Spearhead from Space is one of the Third Doctor stories I hear people talking about quite a bit. It might even be the one I hear the most about. It is a really important serial, and it does what it needs to do quite well. I really enjoyed the way this one started from the perspectives of characters on Earth and how they encountered the Doctor. Jon Pertwee is slowly introduced as this character, and the way that's handled is rather solid. I actually think The Woman Who Fell to Earth did a bit of a similar thing when introducing its new Doctor, and that's not super important to this review, but I did want to mention it. So yeah, I like the way this Doctor is introduced, and I think Jon Pertwee does a solid job in this part, when he does actually come on screen, that is. It doesn't feel like he has fully found his Doctor, but you can tell he's already well on his way to doing so.
Are these what you're looking for? I wonder if the brain's damaged.
And he's doing quite well here. He's quite charismatic and just feels like he has that British dignity about him that I think really fits this incarnation.
Delighted, Miss Shaw, delighted.
What are you a doctor of, by the way?
Practically everything, my dear.
This is one of the few stories I've seen with him, and I can't wait to get further into his run and explore more with his Doctor. The supporting cast does a good job at carrying the weight for this story, and mainly the first part when the Doctor is just getting introduced. The two that stood out to me the most were Liz Shaw and the Brigadier. They both worked pretty well, and I do still enjoy the Brigadier. He's as solid as ever. Although I haven't fallen in love with him the way that some people have, I find his presence entertaining throughout the story. I do think I'm liking Liz Shaw, and I'm not totally sure yet, but I think she's going to be a really good companion, and I've been quite liking her so far, and her chemistry with the Third Doctor is pretty solid, so I hope she does grow on me a little bit throughout, but so far she's had a decent introduction. The Autons are of course the main villain in this serial, and they work surprisingly well for me. Even though the look itself is a bit dated, the Autons just have this kind of creepy vibe to them, which is pretty effective in this story. And I do think that in some ways this classic serial handles the Autons far better than New Who has, because in New Who, they can be really over the top and obviously not human, but in Classic Who, the change is a bit more subtle, and I just find that they work better in the story than they did later in Rose. Again, not super important when discussing this story on its own merits, but I do think that it is worth noting how this story does manage to handle them as villains better than the other instances that I have seen in Doctor Who. Not quite everything works in this serial. There are some performances by a couple of key guest actors that are over the top, and that can be quite distracting at times, but it doesn't totally ruin the story. And the fact that Channing uses mind control is just a bit odd for me, simply because mind control was just used in the last story, and it works fine. It's just weird to me that it is used twice in a row. Also, this is Robert Holmes' third script for Doctor Who, and easily his best yet. It's not even close. This one is a really solid episode, and a significant improvement from his work in the last season, and I do hope that his work does continue to head in this trajectory throughout the rest of the show. One thing that the story is notable for is being the second and final story from this producer, which makes it quite a short era, as much as you can refer to it in that way. And you know, I really did enjoy the War Games, and I really enjoyed this story, so it was a good era, as much as it even was one. And I don't have much to say about that because it's such a short one, but I am trying to keep track of when these people leave the show, and I thought it was worth mentioning that this is the final story from this producer, and I enjoyed the stories that he produced. Overall, this was a really solid and engaging story to start Jon Pertwee's run as the Doctor. The Autons are an effective and intimidating foe with a slightly creepy edge to them, and while not quite every element works, the Brigadier, Liz Shaw, and of course the Third Doctor contribute significantly to making this quite a memorable episode of 1970s Doctor Who. I found this to be a really good one, and I'm going to give Spearhead from Space a rating of 8.25 out of 10. That is going to do it for today, everybody. If you join me this upcoming Sunday, then I will have a review out for Doctor Who and the Silurians, an episode I have already seen. Naturally, I have thoughts on it, so be sure to let me know what you thought about Spearhead from Space down below if you would like to. If not, that is absolutely fine, and I do hope to see you around for more classic reviews soon, but if not, that is totally cool, so long as you know that I appreciate your time here today. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, take care, and have a lovely week.